Hello friends and welcome to my channel. In this channel, I read all the books I like, and at the end of every series, I rank the books. Today, I'm going to be reading Tuesday the Curse of the Blue Spots, which is still Mayhem 2. So let's get started. Chapter 0, The Giant Exploding Cheesecake. Just kidding. There's no giant cheesecake, and no explosion, and no Chapter 0. Chapter 1, Before Breakfast. It really annoys me when one gets into a total mayhem situation before breakfast, which is exactly what happened to me this morning. I just poured myself a glass of walrus milk and was sitting down to my toasted cabbage when my KB-15 started flashing. In case you don't already know, a KB-15 is a danger warning device. Danger was close. Before I even got to the front door, they were inside the house. 3 mind-reading scallywags. And a snarling jetpack hog. Mind-reading scallywags are a super dangerous kind of scallywag because by reading your mind, they know what you're about to do. This makes fighting them rather difficult. Snarling jetpack hogs don't need much explaining. They're hogs with jetpacks that snarl. They fly fast and are super vicious. This being a Tuesday, the worst day of the week, I was prepared. The mind-reading scallywags started getting into mind-reading mode, which takes approximately 3.5 seconds to initiate. This was more than enough time for me to pull out my condensed expandable pocket mirror, and before they could read my thoughts, I auto-enlarged it and I deployed it. And not a second too soon. The mind-reading beams hit the mirror and bounced off back to them, then back to the mirror, then back to them until they were knocked out. Crash! They fell to the ground. And yes, before you ask, I learned this trick from the almanac. Next was the snarling jetpack hog. It was now in full attack mode. I sprinted for the kitchen and it followed. I grabbed my glass of walrus milk. I did a backflip over the jetpack hog and then hurled the walrus milk into the jetpack, instantly disabling it. Out of control, the jetpack hog flew through the kitchen window and crashed into the roof of Mrs. Bellysnake, the lady who lives opposite us, and then ran for its life. Mrs. Bellysnake had recently redone her roof tiles and was not happy. Game over. I still had to deal with the mind-reading scallywags. So I took out my micro-modulated shrinkulator and shrunk them. By shrinking their tiny brains to tiny too, I pulverized their mind-reading power. Sorry to over-explain if you'd already worked that out. The shrinking process woke them up, and When they saw how small they had become, they ran away squeaking. I then went back to the kitchen and sat down to breakfast without walrus milk. And so that's how my day started. And yes, it was kind of annoying. Chapter 2, Face Pulling. After breakfast, I got changed, packed my bag, and went off to my school, Sweat Hump Elementary, the best school in the world. On the way, there were no incidents, no mayhem incidents, and certainly no total mayhem situations. The first lesson of the day was face pulling with Mrs. Zonst. She won the World Face Pulling Championship, which was held at the Ubuiku Zoo in 1972. Sorry if I mispronounced that. So she commands a lot of respect in the school and her whole general area. Number 1 world champion. This lesson was especially important since today was the finals of the county inter-school face pulling championship. The two schools in the final were Sweat Hump Elementary, our school, and Stump Nose Elementary, our rival school. The finals were at the end of the school day, and this was our last practice. So we were all taking it very seriously. Our top competitors were Rob Newman, my best friend, and Greta Gretchen Hoffer. She's amazing. Rob's specialty was the FGDT, full gyrus with double twitch. Greta's was the VJDWER, vibrating jaw drop with eye roll. Our sub-champions were Colum Alum with his PTT, petrified triple twitch, and Sharina Ascalanca with her PRSF, preposterous rest sour face, and Granville Honkersmith and DSOD, dripping stare of death. Granville likes to pour water from his water bottle, which he takes with him everywhere, or his face before doing the DSOD, which I have to admit may look much scarier. After the first practice session, everyone was quite hot and tired, so Mrs. Zont said we could go get a drink at the water fountain. Our school has an epic water fountain designed by the great Slavoslachukian water fountain designer Andrew Griminek, whose cousins, sons, friends, sisters, uncles, aunts, friends, neighbors, dads, brothers, friends, daughters, had attended our school several years ago. While we were there, I noticed that everyone was drinking water from the water fountain, except Gronwell Honkersmith. Instead, he was drinking water from his own water bottle. Strange fellow. And we then had another practice session. Rob and Greta were in top form, and the class ended with all feeling confident for the championship later in the day. Chapter 3, Art. Next up was art class, which was in Building F. Our teacher is Miss Woodhouse. Dude, she's really nice and incredibly talented. And she's probably one of the world's most respected jump sludge painters. In fact, if it were to be in the Olympics, I bet you she'd win the gold medal. Number 1. Second, boring. Third, whatever. Jump sludge painting involves jumping off a cupboard or similar onto a carefully placed paint tube, which then shoots the paint onto a canvas or wall. You should try it at home. Parents love it. Mrs. Woodhouse can paint a perfect anything by jump sludging. For example, this is a painting of an exploding watermelon that she recently did. Don't you just love it? It was actually bought by the Smithsonian, a very famous museum. Anyway, today's lesson was portraits, and we were divided into pairs to paint each other. Gronville, Honkersmith, and Rob were paired up, which was not a good start. Greta and I had to paint each other. Excellent. Yay, yay. John Johnson and his twin sister, Jean Johnson, were together, which they did not look too happy about. Annoyed, very annoyed. The class began. Greta kept pulling faces, hard to paint, but I didn't mind as far as I was concerned. The more practice she got before the final, the better. John Johnson and Jean Johnson had a fight, and he threw some paint at her. She then threw some paint back at him and started to cry. When Jean Johnson cries, boy does she cry. And the tears formed a puddle, and John Johnson slipped on it. Mrs. Woodhouse had to have a bit of a chat with them to avoid a major escalation. When things had calmed down, we continued with our portraits. After half an hour of painting, Mrs. Woodhouse came to inspect our hard work. John by Jean, ugly. Column by Sharina. Okay. Sharina by Column. Also okay. Gronville by Rob. Weird. Rob by Gronville. Weirder. Jean by John. Weirder than John's portrait, but the same as Gronville's. Greta by me. Okay. Me by Greta. Don't know. Mrs. Woodhouse took one look at them and started to frown. Why have you all painted blue spots on each other's portraits? She demanded. Then she looked at us, face to actual face, and we looked at each other, and we realized that we were all covered in blue spots in real life. The spots are actually blue, but you can't. But because this is a black and white book, you can't tell. If you put on your converter glasses, the book will immediately become full color, and then you'll see how blue they actually are. Now I need a break. I'll come back. Keep that door open. Okay. All of us, and it wasn't just paint. There were actual spots on everyone, except Gronville Honkersmith. What the Heggleswick was going on? Chapter 4, First Aid Class. Luckily, the next class was First Aid with Dr. Williams. She has some of the world's most fancy medical equipment. She also happens to be one of the world's most famous ant breeders. This is Dr. Williams at Ant Farm 27B, which is in her kitchen. Upper section, lower section, Ant Farm 27B. This is Dr. Williams at Ant Farm 41A, which is in her bedroom. Ant Farm 41A has been rated a highly prestigious farm. It is extremely competitive to get in, and most ants spend at least 2 years preparing for the admission interview to get a place on the farm. And some of our ants are trained to operate the fancy medical equipment. Reduce pressure to 145. Roger, pressure reduction initiated. Dr. Williams inspected her blue spots closely. Her findings: 1. Looks weird. 2. Will go away in a few days. 3. Don't worry. Okay, 2 of these look completely unnecessary. This one and this one. Her CMA, Chief Medical Ant, agreed. I agree. Another thing weird, ants can't talk. Phew, what a relief. That CMA really knows her stuff. But then, disaster! When we tried face pulling, our spots itched like crazy. This wasn't good. It ruined our chances at the competition. We really did not want to lose to Stump Nose Elementary. General aura of horribleness, plus a hint of sardine smell. Their principal, Professor Inspector Josiah Stumpnose, is a horrible man, and if they won a trophy, he'd boast about it for years to come. Because everyone was a little upset, Dr. Williams recommended a spot of wellness. To help us relax, she said we could listen to her famous ant choir, Prodigiosus Cantus Formicae, for the rest of the class. The amazing singing ants in Latin. Halfway through the performance, out of the corner of my eye, I saw Gronville Honkersmith sneaking out of class. Suspicious. I snuck out to and followed close behind, but not too close. He left the building and headed for the science lab. And don't ask me why it's shaped like a banana, because I have no idea. In we went. What was he doing? I peered around the corner, and I saw him standing in front of a mirror, pulling faces. While the rest of us were itching away, Granville was mastering the art of face pulling with secret practice, and he was getting amazing. Did Granville have some big plan to get the glory for himself? You may not realize it, but this is a highly advanced face pull. Still worried, I returned to first aid class, where the ants were just finishing the most beautiful song. Dr. Williams was so proud. Everyone cheered in the class, and class was over. Okay, well, it's been great reading this book, but I feel like it's been too long right now, so I really have to go. But if you like this video, then like, share, and subscribe, so I could also hit that little bell over there, and if it's white but there's no cross, then you could make it a fully black one, so you get all of my notifications. So, anyways, yeah, that's the whole video. Guess I'll see you next time. Bye. Actual bye now.